the main point that we're going to talk about today, I want to get into talk about Conspiracy 1, 2, and Battlebond. And these cards, these sets, I think were some of the best sets for specifically Legacy, somewhat EDH, and a bit in Vintage. There's been a few cards that have heavily influenced Vintage, but there's a lot of really, really important things that this set has done for Legacy, both with reprints and with new cards. Like the reprints have taken some cards that would have been super, super expensive and brought them down to very reasonable prices where they have stuck since. So let's talk about Conspiracy 1. What sticks out to me in Conspiracy 1 as the best reprint is by far Stifle. Now, you might think Stifle, what is it, a $5 card, $6 card, right? It's a $5 and $6 card now because it was reprinted as a rare in Conspiracy. Before that, Stifle was in Scourge, I believe. It was a rare from Scourge, which is before the Modern Border, so it's old. There's not that many copies of it. And that was back when Rug Delver was really, really good. Rug Delver used Nimble Mongooses, Tarmogoyfs, Delvers, and they used things like Stifles and Wastelands to stop you from being able to play anything. They bolted your creatures, they had Dazes and Force of Wills, and they just beat you slowly or sometimes quickly if they had a Goyf or two, until you just couldn't deal with it. You couldn't do anything really. And Stifle was such a huge part of that deck, and it was a really, really popular deck. Some bug shells, some 4-color Delver shells also ran Stifle. It's a really, really important card. And at the time, it was going on $40, $55, whatever. It was going up. And then this Conspiracy 1 reprint came, and it just bottomed out. And that was amazing because everyone was able to get their playset. I didn't have to spend $200 to get a playset of Stifle. I spent $25.
Yep. I remember back when I was first getting into Legacy and looking at the various different decks, I owned a playset of Scalding Tarns, and so one of the logical places that I was thinking of is trying to build Canadian Thresh, good old Rug Delver. And I remember seeing Stifles because back in the day, Rug Delver was like one of the main top level decks out there.
It was one of the decks to beat, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember Stifles, and I remember seeing Stifles, and I remember finding them for about $30, $35. I remember like crunching the numbers as to how much total cash I would have to spend in order to buy the deck. And I remember when it was reprinted in Conspiracy, and I don't know, maybe like 6 months after it was reprinted, I remember going in shops and finding like when that reprint hits the shelves and stuff like that, that means that the new copy is going to be super cheap, but the old copy is still going to be a little bit more because it's the old border and everybody wants the old original copy.
And even the price memory still might cause the new copy to be more expensive than it's going to be.
Yeah. There's less of the old copy. Like, let's face it, they were never going to reprint Scourge as much as like whatever new set that they were going to put out. And so I remember looking in shops and actually seeing marked down old copies of the Scourge one for like $8. And I remember going, wow, how the mighty have fallen. I remember when that was like a $40, $35 card, like Jesus Christ. And it was also because like Rug Delver sort of fell off. Like it was not as powerful as it was in the Miracles top meta. But yeah, I remember when that got spoiled, and I was super
good thrilled against Miracles because they try to Terminus and you stifle the Miracle trigger. You know, there are plenty of times that Stifle has just completely won a game single-handedly. And even now, because you see less Stifles than you used to see, Stifle has actually sometimes even more difficult to deal with. So I think that was by far the best reprint that came from Conspiracy 1. The second best, I would have to say, is Exploration.
Made a lot of money off that card.
Yeah, Exploration. I think it was also one of those cards that was going on $35.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got reprinted in Conspiracy and fell down to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, especially here in Japan because it's an EDH card. But that was still just a great reprint. There was a long period of time when Explorations were sub $10, $15 and very, very easy to get. Now they finally picked back up and they're up to 35, 40 again.
Yeah,
but
I've been sitting on an Urza's Legacy copy just to sell off, or Urza's Saga, yeah. And I've been waiting because it's now at like 35, and I really feel like it's just going to go up to 50 very soon. And
Easy.
once it does, I will sell. That's my out.
In EDH, people are willing to pay $50 for a single copy of Exploration because they don't have to buy 4. Oh, it's an expensive card, but I only need the 1. Bam, I'll do it. Especially for an old copy. So
yeah.
And
but I remember picking up the new ones for like $5 each, and I remember just going, "This price is stupid. This price is never going to hold."
Yeah. I saw some Japanese ones for like $5 each. I got a couple of them, but again, Japanese ones are different. But still, it's the same card. You can still play it. A few other good reprints: Vidalcan Orrery, Barari's Wake, Reflecting Pool, Pernicious Deed, Edric. Misdirection is an interesting one because nobody really played with Misdirection. It was only just a 5th Force of Will, like a 5th kind of bad Force of Will. But it used to be back in the day, it was only in Mercadian Masks. It used to be like a $12 card, and then it got reprinted in Conspiracy, and everyone's like, yeah, actually, you know what? Like, I don't use this card at all. And it just shot down, and nobody actually cares about Misdirections now at all, which is quite interesting that it used to be a $12 card, and then it gets reprinted, and it's just worth nothing.
It's like $1 now, isn't it?
It's $1. You can get a playset for a few dollars.
Yeah, to me, it's always one of those cards that's like really, really good on paper. You like can think of a million different situations in which
they're gonna ancestral visions themselves. I'll Misdirection. Now I draw 3 cards. Ha ha ha.
Or Abrupt Decay. It's one of the few answers to Abrupt Decay. But
Back with Miracles was.
But its use is so narrow that it's just almost always just going to be that 5th Force of Will and nobody really wants to have to play a 5th Force of Will. Force of Will is a card that you take out when you're playing against a fair deck. Force of Will is a necessary evil because you may get turn 1, 1 game, 2 games out of 10, and you got to make sure that you have it in your deck.
And the fact that Misdirection doesn't hit everything. If your opponent goes like turn 1 Dark Ritual Liliana and you're sitting there with Misdirection blue card, you're like, if this was Force of Will, I could have just done that, but now I'm got this stupid card, So, and again, it's card disadvantage too, unless you pay 5 mana, of course. But otherwise, you're still losing 2 cards. So people realize like we can't have more than 1 in a deck if I even have 1. But Conspiracy 1 was also great because it was kind of the first set that introduced new cards to Legacy that didn't go from Standard or Commander. Like it was like a set that they sold in packs and cards went straight to Legacy. The biggest, by far, most important card that came from that set was Council's Judgment. By far, Council's Judgment. It is such a huge part of the meta now in Legacy because blue-white decks, they run Council's Judgment to deal with just about any permanent that's a non-land. It gets rid of Planeswalkers easily. The best thing is, though, it doesn't target. So you vote. So when someone has a True Name Nemesis, even though it has protection from a player, it doesn't have protection from getting voted for. And so you vote for it, and then it gets exiled. So exiling, not just dying, but being exiled. So it stops things like Merit Lodge. If they have a Merit Lodge and you're able to kind of like chump it for 1 turn, Council's Judgment, pick the Merit Lodge, it's gone. There's plenty of things that are indestructible that you could just get rid of right there because of Councils. It is such an important card. It helped me get top 4 of the tournament last week because my opponent had Etched Champion, protection from all colors. But it doesn't say protection from voting. Card. So it's kind of like the Affinity True Name Nemesis, kind of. So I Council Judgment it, and then Snapcaster Council's Judgment again. Like it was just a blowout there. The most important card that any of these sets have done for Vintage, though, wasn't Conspiracy 1, and that's Dak Faden. Dak Faden.
I always think of it as like the Matt Damon in was it from the Matt Stone and Trey Parker film. But Dak Faden is one of those interesting walkers that it can be built around, and definitely was heavily sought after for vintage decks. And he's seen a little bit of Legacy play, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, I tested with him a bit in Legacy. I had some fun. I played Punishing Dak Miracles. It was Jeskai Miracles, but you use Dak Faden, discarding Punishing Fires, and then using Grove of the Bird Wheels to get him back to gain card advantage. Also, you're using Miracles, so you can do all sorts of goofy stuff. It was really good against Death and Taxes because Dak Faden stealing their Aether Vial was really nice. But it's mostly important in Vintage because stealing artifacts is really good.
Yeah,
like turn one.
There's a guy who has been using Dak Faden in a Grixis control shell along with the green splash, and I believe he took down a legacy. What do you call it? The legacy
1Ks.
1K or quarterly, I think, on the MTGO.
Okay.
But one of the things that he loves to do is he has tons of corner cases with Dak Faden's ultimate and Punishing Fire, because now you can actually target walkers with the Punishing Fire.
And
you can now steal them. You can steal a Merit Lage. You can steal pretty much anything.
One thing you can do is use Red Blasts or whatever and target something that's not blue, steal it, and then it doesn't get destroyed. You just get it.
Yep.
Yeah. So Dak Faden was a huge influence on it. It actually, a lot of Jeskai control builds with red and blue wouldn't exist as they are in Vintage without Dak Faden. Dak Faden kind of puts the deck together. It smooths out your draws when they don't have artifacts. It steals Moxen. There's always something to take with Dak, And when there isn't, get your draws better. Get some Del Fuel for the Treasure Cruises and the Dig Through Times, because, you're running those because it's Vintage. So,
not banned in there. Yep. Only restricted.
So that was great. And Conspiracy was just such a huge it was so popular with the players that it was a huge success for Wizards as a whole. They're like, we're going to make another one. New players loved it. They're like, booster drafts, multiplayer, friends, casual, I love it. Veteran players like us, oh, wait, amazing reprints and amazing new cards for Legacy? Yeah, let's do it. So they came out with Conspiracy 2. Do you want to talk about the reprints on this one?
Those were a little bit more zany reprints with Show and Tell, which up until that point was like a $50
Show
card.
and Tell. It was going up too. Show and Tell was going. It was getting more and more popular because I think that was around the time that Omni Show was kind of a thing.
I think that was just after the Omni Show era.
After Omni Show, but people still, they bought into Show and Tells.
Not to say that Omni Show wasn't still a deck. Some people still play that one, but Dig Through Time? The Dig Through Time meta.
Yeah, that's true. Dig Through Time meta. And Sneak and Show was never not a deck.
Yeah.
Right. Sneak and Show has always been a deck ever since Legacy's been a thing, really. And it was just going up and up and up. Other decks run it. Unfair decks ran it. Cloud Post decks were running it to Show and Tell in a Titan. It's getting out of control. And they reprinted it as Mythic in a $3 set. Like $3 a pack for this set. I mean, yes, MSRP 4, but really $3 for this set. And meanwhile, they can't reprint that many. Like, they have iconic masters and their reprints aren't that good compared to what they put in Conspiracy. So
yeah, So some of the other cards in the set, Berserk, which is another legacy staple for Infect. But then a whole bunch of EDH cards and just random things. Phyrexian Arena, Burgeoning, Ghostly Prison. And then, of course, some of the modern things, the things that everybody was jonesing for, Inquisition of Kozilek and Serum Visions.
Yeah, Inquisition was like a $20 card.
Yeah.
Serum Visions, it was already a little bit on the down because of the FNM reprint, I believe.
Yeah, that was the one that looks like a girl is being splashed in the face with mercury or something.
White milky liquid. So Serum Vision was already kind of going down, but more reprints of a card that should never have been a $10 card as a common.
Yeah,
be good.
Yeah. One of the things that's worth talking about with these reprints, though, is the fact that like all of these are solid legacy cards, but they're also EDH cards, like Exploration and Pernicious Deed and Show and Tell and Berserk.
Yeah.
Those are all legacy cards, but they're also really loved in EDH too. So there was never not going to be people who wanted those cards and wanted to bust those packs open. And I believe that's part of the reason why those sets were so cool. Everybody wanted those cards. There was for the hardcore players and for the spikes and for the casuals.
Yep, I agree. And it also gave us a really, really good set of new cards from that set. Death and Taxes, holy cow! So they came with the White Recruiter. So the White Recruiter, people were running red, white, Death and Taxes because of access to the Red Recruiter. Suddenly, they print a Recruiter in white colors, and they care about toughness, not power. So now you can find things like Flicker Wisp. And then Flicker Wisp your Recruiter. Wow, value. And you can find things like what else is a 3/1? But it finds everything in the deck. Thalia, Thalia's a 2/1. 3/2.
Thalia is the most important card in that freaking deck.
It finds the 3/2 Thalia. It finds Revokers. It finds other Recruiter. It's just that card is just insane. And they printed it as a rare, so thankfully it's not a mythic. And that card is huge in Death and Taxes. Death and Taxes players still use it now, vialing it in to find the creature that you need. That was a huge, and I don't even think it's a mistake. I think the card is great. I'm glad they printed that card. I don't think that a Recruiter like the Imperial Recruiter should have been $200 like it was, but very, very cool card. And then Sanctum Prelate, which can sometimes just screw over Storm. Game 1 Prelate named 4.
I think you're burying the lead though, because we're getting to the one card that I'm really looking forward to.
We'll talk about that after I talk about the last Death and Taxes card, which is Palace Jailer. That came out of nowhere.
No, that's the card I wanted to talk about actually.
All right, you
go. Now a whole bunch of people are starting to run it in Miracles. People are starting to look at it as a automatic card advantage engine, and because Miracles is really good at protecting itself with card advantage, they're talking about running Palace Jailer just in the Jace slot. You drop it, you exile something that you don't want to have to deal with, and then you're just drawing extra cards, and you're just drawing extra cards, and they will come and attack you. And one of the things because it gives you the Monarch, and when you have the Monarch, you draw an extra card at your end step, and the only way for somebody to take the Monarch from you is for hitting you with
combat damage. Yeah.
And Miracles is really, really good at making sure that combat damage doesn't connect. Miracles is very good at stopping your opponent's creatures from doing anything relevant. And so to be quite honest, I think that Palace Jailer was the most underrated card in there. And now he's becoming really, really popular, and I'm really glad because I pulled so many copies of him out of a bulk box.
Oh yeah,
I was finding him for like 10 cents a piece, and just
people
like
are playing Conspiracy, and then take their uncommons and commons. Oh, it's not an Inquisition, it's not a Serum Vision, whatever. Throw it in a box, and then suddenly, like, people like you go in and like, hey, Palace Jailer, it's pretty unique and good. And the best part about Death and Taxes is like, isn't it like you flicker wisp the Palace Jailer and the thing is done forever? So it's just like, cool, just exile forever, something like that. And then despite all this, I still think that the biggest new card that had an effect on Legacy is by far Leovold, Emissary of Trest. Now, when this card first got printed, some people were just like, 3 mana, it's a 3/3, whatever. And then some people went, yo, that card is busted. People are like, bug colors aren't that strong anyways. It doesn't fit into Shardless. So Leovold is godlike, amazingly good. And his biggest weakness is, as people said, is that he's 3 colors. He's not easy to cast on turn 3 without kind of having a really, really greedy mana base, which opens you up to all the Wasteland and the Back to Basics and the Blood Moon hate that's running around right now. And because of no Deathrite Shaman, you can't get him out on turn 2. But people just, so many people, you have a Leovold out and they try to brainstorm. And you know what ends up happening is they have to put 2 cards from their hand on top of their deck. It's just what they have to do. You know, people try doing stuff like Ponder and they're just like, well, I guess I'm just going to shuffle because I don't get to draw. Yeah, Leovold's great. Wastelanding a land, they're like, okay, you targeted my land, so I will draw first. You know, and especially because it's like, I'm going to bolt Leovold, and you're like, I'm going to force a will that or counterspell that, and it's like, all right, draw your card. I'm going to try to kill him again. I'm going to draw another card. Oh, good, I drew another blue card, force a will again. Leovold is great.
One of the funnier things I've ever seen is targeting someone who has a Leovold out with Tendrils of Agony. You watch them draw 20 cards, and then they just look at their hand and they're like, nope, I still lose.
Yeah. It's like, I don't have a Flustered Draw main deck.
Yep.
But
Leovold, we moved on to Leovold, but one thing I wanted to just shoot at you real quick. How much, without looking it up, how much do you think Palace Jailer is right now?
$6.
No, not that much.
Oh, okay. I just remember Palace Jailer never being cheap. Like, by the time I'm like, oh, this card is good, everyone else knew he was good. So
really?
I think he was already like $3 or $4 at that time. I assume he just went up.
Okay, no, he's at $350. His most recent price spike was February of 19.
Well, one thing I also want to say is that the other Monarch cards, like the common ones, which is just like you just get the Monarch, they don't have the Palace Jailer Exile something. Those are still like $1 for commons. You know, that's how good the Monarch is, and that's how much people are like, I think this is useful.
Yeah, he was under $1 up until M19. He was at 50 cents until M19, and then he shot up.
He was more than that in Japan early on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, people
I never bothered shopping for him, but I would always find him in bulk boxes, and I'd just like pull him out and just going, "This is a sick ass card. Why aren't people?"
He's either in bulk boxes, which I just didn't have time to look through, or he's in a place where the people already know he's good, and anyone who wants them isn't going to look through bulk bins. They're going to pay the $4 or whatever. So, Conspiracy 2 is a great set. There's a few really expensive cards now, actually, that are EDH cards. Like Expropriate is huge. It's like $50 because.
What is Expropriate? I don't even know what that
it's the one where everybody votes, and if they vote time, it's 9 mana, blue, 7.
Oh, that one. That was the one that you traded to me for like $20.
Yeah, like time, you get another turn, and then they drink like steel or something, you get a permanent. But people are just like,
shit, that card is $52?
It's EDH because like 4 people EDH, you cast it, you win the game. So what you do? You vote time for yourself. You get yourself your extra turn, and then if people are smart, they're gonna say, fine, you get one of each of our permanents. If someone's stupid and says, I don't want you to get one of my permanent, you can get another extra turn. Something that happened to me. You're saying that's like 2 or 3 extra turns, and like you get 2 permanents still, because nobody's gonna give you 4 extra turns. If you get 4 extra turns from that, then like it's already over.
You won.
So
I actually had that happen because I've only cast that once, and it was with the Japanese guys that I play EDH with, and of course I play Narset, and you never give the Narset
never
player
give
another
Narset more
turn.
extra turns.
Yeah, but he did not want me to take any of his permits. He's just like, here, just take an extra turn, and I'm just like, you're dumb.
Okay, swing.
I won the next game. I won the next
Yeah.
turn. It was done.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Oh boy. So, and then a couple other cards like Selvala is really, really expensive. She's 3 mana, just gets a ton of mana, whatever. Queen Marchesa, the Monarch Queen, she is a very popular commander, and so she's just been going up in price. The original Kaya, she's a great planeswalker for EDH. Fun card. Some people have tried to run her in Vintage, but it's just not as good as what you could be running. Subterranean Tremors is a sideboard card for Vintage because it destroys all artifacts and can potentially destroy all the creatures on the board. So there's a lot of really cool cards that have come in Conspiracy 2. And that's without even going into is it fun to draft and to play Conspiracy 2? Like, this is just how are the cards that they printed in this set. So Conspiracy 2 is it's a huge, huge, huge success in my book as well. All right, and then we have one more set to talk about.
Okay. And this is one that I basically did not pay the slightest bit of attention to, just because I just had other things going on in my mind.
It's all good. So Double League Season was the biggest reprint.
Well, what's the set?
Sorry, it's called Battlebond.
Battlebond
is a 2-headed giant format. So a lot of the cards had team aspects. Like if your partner played a spell before this, then you can do this. Other people can pay mana to help you pay for this type things. A lot of cool cards. A lot of good reprints. So Doubling Season was the biggest reprint. It was going up to $60, $70, and then it reprinted, went down to $20, $25. Now it's back up to $50, $60 because that's how it goes. When cards like that get reprinted, they come back up every time. Every single time a card like Doubling Season is reprinted, it will go back up in price.
I can't tell you how mad I am. So there's like 3 copies of Doubling Season at my LGS that are just sitting in the case for like $20, and they're all Japanese. And
Japanese is different though.
Every time if the shop knew that those were a $60 card, he'd probably mark them up to like 40. But like at $20, it's like just.
Is it worth it to get like 3 Japanese for the price of 1 English? Maybe.
Well, it's one of them is the Battlebond, and then there's also 2 Ravnica, the original Ravnica, and they're all in Japanese.
Maybe worth it, but other reprints is Mycosynth Lattice, the 7 mana. It combines in all the artifact decks, kind of lets you play anything. It's good with Sun Triplets because you can use the mana to spend on their stuff. But it went from being $40 down to $6 or $7. It actually went up because of the new Karn in War of the Spark. Because suddenly, everything your opponent has an artifact, they can't activate any of their stuff, and you can activate yours. So one-sided, you can't do anything.
That's honestly something that I would have had I honestly was completely blindsided by this set. I didn't even look at the spoilers. I didn't notice that it had even come out. And that's actually was always a card on my list that if it ever dropped down to like $3 or $4, I was going to go pick up a playset just because I thought it was a crazy EDH card. And I really kick myself now because I really wish that I had known that it was reprinted. I probably immediately would have gone and bought a playset. And now I'm never going to get them.
Yeah, not for that price anymore.
$40 on them.
Especially because they're back up to, $30 again, down from like 10, 11. However, True Name Nemesis was reprinted. That was going up to $30, $35. It went back down, thankfully. Great reprint. True Name Nemesis is one of the best creatures ever printed. I can't believe it's blue. I can't believe it's a 3/1 and not even like a 2/1. It's a 3/1. It's everything. True Name Nemesis is amazing. They would really they'd have to mess up really hard to make a blue creature better than True Name Nemesis. Spell Snare was a great reprint because Spell Snares were going for $8 to $10 each. They get reprinted in Battlebond. Suddenly, Spell Snare's $1. You know, and when you get a card that you kind of remember being like a $7, $8 card, and suddenly they're $1, you're like, I think I'm going to pick up 4. It's only $4, and that's a great pickup right now if you need them. Land Tax, EDH card, hasn't really dropped in price any, to be completely honest. Diabolic Intent, Confluence. Chain Lightning is another card. At one point before Chain Lightning was reprinted in Eternal Masters, it was only in Legends as a common used in Burn. It's about $30, $35 a copy. It was kind of the expensive card in the Burn deck. And now you can get copies in Battlebond for about $1.50 or so. $6 a playset, $5 a playset. Compared to where it came from, if you don't care, like, I don't care if it's new or if it's the old one, then yeah. And Chain Lightning is great. I guess there was a point when it was in the premium fire, the premium lightning all foil burn deck. They had 1 or 2 copies in that, but
I remember back in the old days, because you could either get the premium fire and lightning version or the original Legends one, and I got the Legends one for my blue-red Delver.
Definitely go for Legends.
Well, I sold those cards off because they were about to be reprinted, and I was just like...
Yeah, sometimes you can see, like, something gets spoiled. You can go that day to a card store, sell the cards, and then you could kind of take your money. But yeah, and a few other EDH cards. Nirkana, Revenant, that was like a $25, $30 black card. Now it's, $4 or $5. Mystic Confluence, Greater Good, Vigor. Kind of all things that were a little more expensive than they should have been. Kind of shot down. Tidespout Tyrant, that was a reanimator target. Only printed once a long time ago, so it was $8. Now it's only $1. Veteran Explorer got reprinted. New art. People like new art. But the new cards in the set have actually been pretty cool. My favorite by far is Arena Rector. Rector?
Damn, near killed her.
Right. So, but the great part is if you do kill her or him, then find a Planeswalker. So it's the Academy Rector for Planeswalkers. It's great.
And which Elder Dragon Planeswalker are you going to get? Ugin, or do you get
Ugin. Ugin.
Or do you get Nicol Bolas? Because now Nicol Bolas has a sweet, sweet new printing.
That is true. I get Ugin.
Just better to rat the board, eh?
Brightling was also a really, really good card. So it was like the power of a Morphling, but instead of being 5 mana, it was only 3 mana. So, and it fit into Death and Taxes again. Here we go. Death and Taxes getting good cards every single set.
Watsy, why do you like Death and Taxes so much?
Like, Council's Judgment is Death and Taxes is like the only way to deal with Nemesis and Jason, stuff like that sometimes. So, but I love spell piercing it. Oh my gosh, I love when I have a Nemesis and 1 blue mana and they're like, tap 3 mana, Council's Judgment, and I'm just like, spell pierce. Haha. And they're like, oh no, I hate blue. Burp. Yeah.
Well, any tool that they give white is pretty much almost always going to be used in a blue deck somehow, some way.
Of course. But so Brightling was actually, I tried running Brightling a bit in Miracles. It would have been better as a mentor, but it was kind of a fun, like, get life back creature. If I could put a bunch of mana into it, but it wasn't that good. Arcane Arts.
Yeah, Brightling was. I want to talk about Brightling just a minute, because Brightling was one of those cards that I looked at and I understood. I was just like, what's all the fuss with this card? Like, I mean, because Aetherling is not being played, and neither is what was the other one, Flameling or whatever is it? Torchling, yeah. And then there's Thornling. Like, none of those were ever getting many play.
Sorry, speaking of Morphling, oh man, I had it on my door the whole time and nobody can even see it. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Is that what you were talking to Cody about? Was she laughing at you for putting that up, or?
Yeah. But I do have the Morphling there. I should have put it a little higher this time. I'll figure out the right height for one of these days, but
you had it pretty good last time.
Yeah.
When not the last episode, but like it was 2 weeks ago that you had it and you put it up.
Yeah, I do have to take it down every single time though.
Why?
But because the doors don't open that way. Like if the door opens, it actually crushes that. These are kind of sliding doors. But
I see.
It's actually the only print I've ever bought is the Morphling one. Signed by RK Post. He came to Japan. I went to the GP. I bought his print because I think Morphling is one of the sickest cards, and it's from my favorite set, Urza Saga. So,
yeah. But yeah, when people were like talking about Brightling and just going, "Oh my God, this card is so sick! It's so great," and I'm like, well, "What's the big deal with this card? Like, if a blue opponent is got True Name Nemesis in play, then what exactly are you going to do about it? Like, because Brightling sure as heck ain't going to block it, and you can try and pump it as much as you want, but we'll just swords it. And, yeah, I didn't see the whole appeal.
Well, it is a shapeshifter, and there's one reason why that's important. Death and Taxes runs Cavern of Souls.
Sure.
So they can bounce it back to their hand with a white to keep it safe. Swords it, bounce it back. Sure. Cavern, Brightling's in play. Really hard to deal with, actually, if you just have creature removal and you don't really have like a blocker or anything. That's actually really difficult to deal with. So that's kind of one of the appeals of Brightling. Is that you can Cavern it into play because it's a shapeshifter, so it has all creature types, and it's it bounces itself back with a white. Of course, if they don't have that much mana, you can kind of get them away from it. That's fine.
All right, wait a minute. It's a shapeshifter, but I thought Changeling was the one that's all creature types.
Then
I'm thinking of a Changeling.
So
a Changeling is the one thing that has all creature types at all times.
Okay, I got bamboozled in tournament then.
Oh snap! What? Somebody used it against you and said, "Oh no, it works."
Yeah, they said it's a shapeshifter, so Cavern of Souls works, even though Cavern is on horror.
Yo.
Don't worry, I still won.
Good. I hope you shoved his nose in the mess he made.
Yeah. No. I won pretty happily. But I got, it was pretty much like I was just kind of sitting there keeping the board idle, and then he goes, and then I go, oh, finally, Disenchant Mandra Kugasari, GTA Nemesis Swing. And then I won, because they can't do anything about that. So, good to know. So if it doesn't say Changeling, then it's not. Okay. Yeah, that is good then.
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm looking at Moth Dust Changeling right now, and it is a creature shapeshifter, which is what that series of creatures are, but it also has Changeling in its text box that says this card is every creature type at all times. Yeah, and I think it has to have the keyword Changeling in order for it to matter. Yeah, here we go. Changeling is a characteristic defining keyword ability. It only appears on shapeshifter cards and grants those cards all creature types. It was from Lorwyn block, and yeah, it's a Changeling is a characteristic defining ability. It has to have the keyword on there for that to matter. So there you go.
Well, thankfully that can't happen again though. Okay, well, Brightling's all right. Brightling's all right. Because it's like I had the counter for the stupid Brightling. That was the only thing that was keeping him alive for a while. He would have just died much quicker than he did. Still died though, but yeah.
Humble brag.
I'm good at that matchup. So next I want to talk about Arcane Artisan. It's a show and tell card. So what it is I guess I don't really need to read the text, but what you can do with it is you pay the blue mana, or the 3 mana, you draw a card, you exile an Emrakul. If an Emrakul is exiled, you get a token of an Emrakul. And the best part is, you're like, all right, well, I'm going to Swords the Artisan. When Artisan leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with it at the beginning of the next end step. So if you're like, end of your turn, Artisan, you're like, all right, fine. They get the Emrakul in. Even if you get rid of the Artisan, they still get to untap and swing with that Emrakul token during their turn before it goes away. And the thing is, it's a 0/3 creature. It's a 0/3 wizard. But against show and tell, how often do you leave in Source the Plowshares and stuff?
Or
and
Bolt.
Again, yeah. Well, the thing is, not that often because, you want to get rid of all your combo stuff that stops show and tell itself, right? You have all the Fluster Storms and stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
you can Red Blast it, but like, your Source the Plowshares, I'm going to be honest, are the first thing I take out against show and tell.
As you should.
And this card kind of just gives them one way to deal with not being able to cast and resolve a show and tell. And especially because the creature, so can't Spell Pierce it, can't Fluster Storm it. I have to literally have like counter spell or like a Force of Will. And that's if they don't Force of Will back. So, and sometimes just getting the token and just drawing 7th Grizzlebrand is enough. So this card is really, really good for show and tell. It was really expensive at one point. It was up to $20-something, down to $4 on Card Kingdom. So
that's not bad.
Not that good, I guess. But great card though. Very, very spicy. I like it. The commander lands are really good. The 2-color lands. If you have 2 or more opponents, then it comes untapped, which is great for commander. You always want more lands that come in untapped that are more than 1 color that can kind of only be used in commander, because like if it's too good, it's going to be used in modern legacy, and you can't make them as good as dual lands because then that breaks the reserve list thing. So I like that they made it like kind of specifically for commander. Very cool. And it also works with the 2-headed giant thing. Spellseeker was a card I was really excited about. Because again, they made Recruiter. Oh, they made Spellseeker for blue, for instants and sorceries, for spells. It's great. It's okay.
Yeah. She's Spellseeker is one of the ones that a lot of Reanimator players are talking about. The whole idea is that you can reanimate her and then go search for whatever piece that you're missing, or just cast her. Like, she's not that much, only 3 mana.
And you can search for what you need. It's like, oh, if in this situation I need a discard spell, search for a discard spell. If in this situation you need like a sacrifice creature spell, then search for that. It's very, very useful. But again, it's hard. 3 mana for a 1/1. It's not always going to be that good. I do run 1 copy in my Arena Academy Rector Vintage deck, because once I get Omniscience out, I can Spellseeker and then find Demonic Tutor, which finds me Emrakul, which wins the game. There's a few other expensive cards in that set for EDH: Archfiend of Despair, Bramble Sovereign. Peer and Toothy is a card that's been going up lately. Peer, the imaginative rascal, and Toothy, the friend. You cast 1, you find the other. Peer puts extra counters on things. Toothy, when you draw a card, you put a counter on it. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw that many cards. Like in Nick Fit type decks, people are playing the combination of these two, and they've been having some decent success. It just kind of snowballs out of control. The longer you can't deal with it, the harder it gets. So, and the fact that just casting 1 replaces and gets another card from your deck, you're not losing card advantage, and they work well together. And if Toothy leaves the battlefield, it's not if it dies, it's if it leaves the battlefield. So they can exile it, you can bounce it, whatever, and you still draw a bunch of cards. And if you have Peer out, then you draw like a bunch more because you're getting extra counters every time. So very, very cool. A lot of cool cards in these sets. A lot of great reprints. And honestly, I'm more than any like Ultimate Master set or Eternal Master set or whatever, I look forward to the Battlebond Conspiracy style sets because of the good reprints and because there's never not relevant new cards. There's always going to be a few cards that are like, this is amazing, I love it.
Agreed. I just love how it always just straddles between legacy playable cards and EDH playable cards. There seems to be so much overlap between those two that there's always something for everybody. And it also kind of keeps the dirty modern players out of it, because to be quite honest, if something is good in modern, the price just goes absolutely through the roof in no time flat, and then it's almost impossible to get a copy of whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, modern prices, because modern is so popular, its prices are just actually, to me, almost more insane than legacy prices. But wait, duels are $300-$400. Well, thing is,
if you have them, then
they're reserve list though, and like they're old. Modern cards can be reprinted at any time, but Mox Opals are still $100 each. Though Judge Foil is coming, so maybe it'll go down a little. But still, like Dark Confidence are going up to $85-$90 because it's good in modern against that Phoenix deck, So Scald and Tarn is the biggest example of a card that it shouldn't be as much as it is. And if Wizard
it should be reprinted more. It should be reprinted just en masse.
Prints enemy fetches in a Battlebond or Conspiracy style set, that would be the best thing that they could do. The best
people will be ripping those boxes apart like nothing
ever
else.
Made has been the reprints of the Onslaught fetches into Khans of Tarkir. That had such a huge effect on personally just about every single Magic player, and being able to get good fetches, cheap fetches, makes modern cheaper because now they have other fetches to choose from, not just the 5 Zendikar ones.
Yeah,
like it was the single best reprint they've ever made, and I love it.
Have you? I'm sorry, that's not really loud. Have you checked to see what the Khans of Tarkir fetches have gone up to now?
I haven't, but I can guess. If I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna say Delta is the most expensive, probably at around $30. Bloodstained Mire's probably about the same, 28 is my guess. Flooded Strand probably about 20. Wooded Foothills probably 25, and the Heath was reprinted in the set, so it's probably close to 15. My guess only.
You're pretty close. Bloodstained Mire is actually the most expensive now at 35. Delta is at 30, and I believe Flooded Strand is at like 28 now. Which is crazy because for the longest time I never expected them to be moving that much. To me, they always seem to kind of go like the way of the Shocks. I remember when Shocks were reprinted in RDR, and of course everybody wanted to get their play sets of Shocks because they're going to be used in modern, and oh my god, we got to get Shocks, and the Shocks are going to go up eventually, and Shocks just sat and they did not move whatsoever, and now they've been reprinted
again.
Yeah. And now I had my 40 set of Shocks, and I then eventually was just like, why the hell am I holding on to these damn things? I play Legacy now. And so I just started trading them away and getting rid of them slowly over time. Yeah. And like at this point I have no use for them other than what was the blue black one? I forget even
Death
what it's
Shadow.
Called. Yeah, I use it for Death Shadow, but that's pretty much the only Shocks that I actually care about at this point. I thought that the fetch lands were going to do that because I thought that maybe they were printed hard enough, that they were printed with enough that they would just stick at a price of $15 and just stay there because they were ubiquitous. Everybody could get them. They were always available. And now I've proven to be wrong, and I'm wrong in the most happy way ever because I have like several play sets of each one of them, and I don't care.
I have a lot of fetch lands. Fetch lands because
the Khans ones especially.
Could never have enough. I've never been like I have too many fetch lands. What am I going to do with all? It's never. Can never have enough.
I think I have 2.5 play sets of Polluted Delta. I've got 2 play sets of Flooded Strand. I've got 6 copies of Bloodstained Mire now, and I don't care.
Yeah, I probably have close to. Well, first off, my favorite fetch by far. Yeah, I probably have close to 25, 30 copies of Flooded Strands.
Jesus Christ.
I play blue-white in just about every format. So I have blue-white in Legacy. I have blue-white in Modern. I have blue-white in Vintage. And any EDH deck I have that has both blue and white has Flooded Strands. I'm not joking. I'm sitting on some deltas too. You know, like there's no shortage on deltas for me. That's because I also used to play Frontier because me and I had a friend who was getting into Magic. Modern was a little too expensive, but Frontier was better than Standard. So we built Frontier decks and then sat on those for a few years before we realized we're just playing Modern now. Got him into Modern. Never touched Frontier again, and I'm like, wait, I still have like 8 deltas in these 2 decks, so it's great.
Yep, found money.
All right, well, I think that's all for today.
Yeah, we are definitely at an hour 20, and we probably should wrap this all up. So, Rob, I hope you have a good evening, and
yes, you as well.
And I'll see you next time.
Yeah, take care. Sayonara, Mason.
Sayonara, Rob.